does there exist, and I'm pretty sure there is, an ex-Catholic community to kind of help, or of atheists that were Catholic, that they can kind of talk about it and try and be therapeutic with each other?
No, not really. And I think that's because there are wonderful groups online for groups like ex-Muslims, things like that, which is very important. I think with Catholics, there's so many different experiences because we have some that, I grew up very intensely Catholic, even creationist, but there's some that had a very pleasant Catholic, and some of mine was, the Jesuits give a great education. But some, I think it's because it's only some Catholics have sort of traumatic experiences, whereas others, just kind of, they do leave it, they become atheists, but they don't really want to talk about it or need to. So I think that would be a good resource to have, though, in theory.
Everything's always a theory.
In theory.
We were just talking about Catholicism. What do you think is the most harmful aspect of that religion?
Childhood religious indoctrination, absolutely. That's where the guilt and the shame come from. I personally don't remember a time when I didn't think of myself as a Catholic, which is sad in a way. That is pressed into you at home, for me, at home, church, and school, so it was 24 hours a day. And that's where the guilt and the shame come from. As you know, you're born a sinner. Little baby, you're already a sinner. You have to be, when you're baptized, you supposedly are less of a sinner. But your whole life, you're basically told you are not worthy. And I think that's, it starts with the child. If the Jesuit saying, I believe, is give us the boy till he's 7 and we'll give you the man. It sounds awful, especially in the context of the Catholic Church.
I think the Spartans also said the very same thing.
Exactly.
And they tended to be what you might call warlike, or at least fairly aggressive.
And in the Catholic Church, context of the Catholic Church, discussing boys is not a good thing, probably. But the Jesuits, that is obviously what it is referring to, though. Just let us have the child for a while and we will make sure that they don't leave the church, but that doesn't always work. Unfortunately, there's people like me who get to the point where our cognitive dissonance is too strong, and we are taking classes that require us to have lots of critical thinking skills, and then we go into our scripture class and we're supposed to turn those off. So that's impossible. For me, it was after age 16.
So we had just talked about the fact that childhood indoctrination is probably the most harmful aspect of Catholicism. Richard Dawkins has mentioned in writings and talks that he believes that such indoctrination is child abuse. Do you subscribe to the view that particular characterization is accurate?
I believe so. I think it is certainly a form of emotional child abuse, and I believe that's how he refers to it too. As long as we make the distinction that it's not the same as physical abuse or something like that. Although there has been, people have made the arguments that, in some contexts, in some ways, it can be worse, than some physical abuse, let's say, for example. It really depends on the strength of the indoctrination. I do think it is child abuse in a sense to deprive a child of the opportunity to learn science, for example. Those of us who are raised creationists, you never really catch up, and that's always a little bit of a weight around, you feel a little like you're behind. And that's sad, a child should be able to learn what they want, for example. Or, I think it is child abuse to tell a child they are unworthy, or I don't know what you learned as a child, but you're basically, maybe not in so many words, but that you're worthless. Or,
there was, Richard often refers to the implanting of the notion of hell into children's into children's psyches as probably the most insidious part of that.
I believe that too.
Telling them that they will roast and burn forever.
Literal hell.
To a kid, to a kid's psychology, first of all, they're not very aware of time, temporal aspects of their existence don't make sense until they're much older, like in their teens. So the idea of a child, and they obviously understand what burning is and pain. Yeah. So I think that's just incredibly insidious.
Yes.
Having the idea of some monster coming after you, and yet these same parents will say, well, there's no monster under your bed. Well, there's no monster under the earth either.
No, I understand, for sure. But I believe I was taught that hell is literal, and that you can go there, and a kid doesn't understand, basically we were told that we could go there just for questioning enough. And that's obviously that's the trap, because if you're afraid to question things, and the questioning itself is a sin, then you're not going to want to question because you're going to go to hell. I know not everyone is taught that hell is literal, and that's better. But I was taught that there is a literal hell, and even missing mass could, for a week, you might end up in hell. So it wasn't
keeping tabs on you.
Absolutely. So it's not just like with the Catholic Church currently, they have I don't even know if I should try to pronounce it, the dialecta graviora, I believe, which is a Latin phrase for the grave sins. Which those are the ones you definitely go to hell for. Desecrating a Eucharist has been one for thousands of years, but the sexual abuse of a child was only added, I believe, in 2000.
So a vast majority, or not a majority, but a good deal of Catholic priests are now going to hell.
Oh yeah, we could say so. I don't know if it's retroactive or not, but yes.
Oh right, we have to check the bylaws of the Bible somewhere in the back in the index.
But yes, I believe that definitely teaching a child literal hell is child abuse, and hell is not just Catholicism, but Christian religions, and Islam has their own version of hell.
I found that the Catholics have somewhat of a how would you say, an affinity for hell. They have this disgusting lust for it.
Yeah,
in a way that even evangelicals really don't, because they focus on different aspects. I mean, they talk about it, but Catholics throughout history have seemed hell-bent.
Yeah, exactly.
On the concept of hell.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we were taught in detail. They find ways to teach children about it that don't seem like abusive. But yeah, I mean, the Catholic, and it gets into how suffering is good in Catholicism and pleasure is bad. And that is related to hell, because suffering, a fetish for suffering almost, or a fetish for hell, and sulfur, burning, devil, scary, which is all insidious, especially for a little child's brain.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
Well, Miranda, appreciate you coming by and talking with us, and hopefully we'll see you around at more conferences.
Absolutely.
like this.
That would be great. Thank you.